Hey
Hey guys.
everybody.
Hi. Happy Wednesday. Happy Gemini season. Hope y'all are doing well on this Wednesday.
Oh, you and I gang.
Oh, 1 second. Let me make sure the audio is fine before we get talking too much because every time that tends to happen. Make sure we have a good balance.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh, I can check too.
Okay. Because mine is always a little bit off. It always sounds fine to me, but I'm not sure if it's fine to everybody else.
Mhm.
Let me make sure my notifications are off.
Okay.
Right. Let me turn myself up a little bit.
Turn the music down a little bit,
All right.
but other than that, it's good.
All right. So let me know if that's a little bit better or if I need to turn
Okay.
it down some more.
Yeah, that's good. It's perfect.
All right. So y'all, this is our third episode of our mental health awareness month. And today we have a very special guest, Bonnienomnoms.
Mhm.
If you do exclamation point Bon in the chat, make sure you guys go show her some
Oh,
love. Oh, twin beat me.
I'm tearing up. There we
Hello.
go. Let me make sure they can hear Bond.
Oh yeah, I was about to say that because I might have to turn up a little bit more.
Okay, can y'all hear Bond good and well? Well, Bond is bomb. Can say that.
That part.
Hello, Tito. Hello, Apple.
Hi Tito, hi Apple.
It's Tito and Apple.
um, just let us know if you guys can hear Bon okay, because she will be speaking
Right.
for most of this part.
So we don't want her to be too low or
Hello,
too
Apple
overpowered.
Jacks. Hi, Tito. Hopefully,
Oh,
I
hi.
heard.
Okay, you can hear.
All right. All right, all right, all right.
Awesome.
So I guess we can start off by saying, as we typically do, we are going to have an interview portion with Bonnie, and after we're done with the original like interview portion, we're gonna shift into a viewer questions. If you guys have any questions for Bonnie or if anything that she may discuss that you anything like that, we're gonna open that up after that portion. And also another quick
Oh,
thing.
twin, did you go
Oh,
out, or
Oh
was that
no.
me?
okay. I thought it was just me. I
Okay.
don't
Oh, I think
hear.
it's twin.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
Okay, can you guys hear
Well,
me
if you
now?
guys have any questions or comments, concerns, whatever, you guys can go ahead and uh actually, while we're also talking, you can also. Oh, I don't know if y'all can hear us actually. Oh, you can. Okay, good, cool. I'm not sure what happened to the twins. Her mic, but you guys can also whatever that's Bonnie is talking about. You guys can also just talk in the chat because we'd love to hear your guys' feedback. Also, um later we'll also oh no, twin. Also later, like Twin was saying that if you have any questions or anything like that that you have for Bond, we'll go ahead and have Bond answer those as best as she can. Um, Also, if you all don't know, Bond on her actual stream, because she does stream, make sure you guys follow her. Um, she talks about mental health a lot over there, and that's one of the main reasons why 29 wanted Bond to be on here. Because last week we had Nami, and Nami brought more of a spiritual background, but this week we wanted to have a little bit more of a technical, more of a professional side of it. Also, her own personal things, because we always love to hear all about. Um, Personal experience, because that's how we all relate. But also on the technical side of her being a professional in the mental health realm. So we're gonna jump on in here, but thank you so much again, Bond, for coming. Oh, and also before we start, Our trigger warning. Please remember that it is up to you, the individual, to recognize your own personal triggers, and that this warning is to help you avoid such topics that may be a general trigger. All responsibility is up to you, the individual. Should you choose to continue watching the stream, please do not. If you know that you will be triggered, please exit out the stream because we do not want you to be in a uh, more negative, more a negative headspace than you came in. But also just know that whenever you are in a more grounded place to be able to listen, we'll have this VOD saved on YouTube. So you can go ahead and rewatch it over there when you are better to handle it. But thank you all for coming. We love you guys, and we're going to start. Hello, Coopert. I've seen you in Boston, you and Tito. Thanks for coming to support your girl. We love to see it. Oh,
Hi,
yeah, Chrissy. Hey, Chrissy. And hey, Britt. Hello. Good morning. I'm saying good morning, but it's not morning.
Hi,
hello,
everyone.
Coco. You are also another supporter of Bond. We love to see it. I think I've seen you over there too. All right.
Trini. Oh, Trini said they can't hear or
Trini?
see.
Oh, y'all can't see? You can't see Trini? Twins mic is messing up right now, but I'm pretty sure she's yelling at the screen. Hey, Humble.
Can you guys hear me?
Humble.
Time. Give you guys this one more time. Fruity Pebbles donut. Oh my god. I know that's sugary. It's good? Okay, good. It's only this channel. I'm weak.
Wow, they don't want us to be great.
Are you here, Twin? Well, we don't hear Twin. Twin, you might have to leave and come back.
Unless they think I'm Oodles.
Oh, it's just Discord. Okay. Well, you might have to leave and come back. Do you want to do that real quick or something? I don't know. Or put your stuff in the chat, but I would rather you hear your voice, your lovely voice. Oh, Trini. Are you typing the chat? Alrighty. Alrighty. We'll go ahead and
Wait, leaving and coming back didn't work? Did she leave?
When do you want to try leaving and coming back? So you can didn't want to cut audio for streaming this again. Oh, go on BRB. Just go on BRB real quick.
Yeah.
And we're back.
Hey.
We have returned.
We're back like we never left. Okay. Now we're gonna start. We do want to give you guys another trigger warning because we are going to be talking about some heavy stuff because, like Twin said, is Mental Health Month. Okay. All right.
Moving to MySpace.
Not MySpace.
I haven't heard that in 1,000 years. Also, we'll be posting the questions in chat so you guys can keep up with the questions, so you guys can read them. Also,
yes. Okay. Alrighty, Bond. This is the first interview I ever had in my life to be given to someone. So please
Really?
bear with me. Um, First question is, what is your personal mental health journey?
My personal mental health journey. I was reviewing the questions before, like I had said, and I was thinking, where would I even start with this?
Mm-hmm.
For those of you guys who don't know, I am a therapist, so I have my master's in psych, and
Yes, that's amazing. Congratulations.
thank you. And I figure I could say my mental health journey really started when I was in grad school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because during that time, they really push you to, you're not only assessing other people, but you're assessing yourself. So they put you in a position where you have to look at your own family dynamics. You have to look at um, your own experiences that could be seen as potentially, traumatic because your experiences and the way that, you've been impacted by those experiences is going to play a role in how you practice. Um, and what I found when I started analyzing myself and my family dynamics, I got to the point where there were certain assignments that I just didn't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And, I would look at my grades and I would be like, I think I could still pass and not do this one assignment because
Mm-hmm.
I started to realize that it was triggering for me. And then it got to the point where my clinical supervisor contacted me and said, "Hey, do we need to um, extend your program because certain things aren't getting done?" And I said, "No, no, no, I can do it. I can do it." And because it's not that I couldn't do it, it's just it became such an emotional strain for me to analyze my life and to analyze my experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And it caused me a lot of distress. And I started to get really angry because now I'm in a position where I have to think about my experiences. I have to think about my family. I have to think about those things. And I became really depressed. I was depressed before that. It, I had depressive episodes on and off, but I just pushed through it. I didn't really give it much thought. I never sought therapy myself. Um, but I knew I wanted to become a therapist. The whole thing is just very ironic in the sense that I was trying to help people, but I wasn't getting help myself. And, my clinical supervisor, she noticed that I just wasn't doing well. And she's like, "You know what? You have to see a therapist." So I was uh, a therapist in training, also seeing a therapist while I was in grad school. And it really made me notice just how just how traumatized I was and how
Mm-hmm.
much I repressed. So I would say my mental health journey really started during grad school. Um, After that point, I graduated and I stopped seeing that therapist, but I neglected continuing and finding another therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And so things kind of just started to collapse from that point because I feel like when you start repressing things, when you start digging up things that you once repressed,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to bury it again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so things just started to collapse on each other. Mind you, I'm now, a graduate and I get hired at a clinic and I feel like this is I feel like this is trickling into probably the career part of the mental
Oh,
health.
it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can go ahead and ask the question,
Yeah.
so you can go on in. Okay. So our next question is, how has your career impacted your mental health?
Yeah, so I would say it's had a good and bad impact. Good in the sense that it pushed me to see that, girl, you need help. Like, you can't just be here trying to help all these people and you yourself need help.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the interesting thing about being a therapist who also needs a therapist, because you can't run away from it. And there's a it's hard to create that personal and professional boundaries when you're trying to help people but you are also struggling with the same things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to say that, as a therapist, you're human. There's nothing to say that you're not going to have a client that is experiencing something, experiencing something similar, but
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't managing, my self-care wasn't on point. So my career path was bad in the sense that I was I was working with people who had severe mental illness, severe trauma, and I also had trauma that I had not processed. And so if you could imagine, I have 35, 40 clients. All my clients are severe cases of mental illness, trauma, while also having my own trauma. So I never had a break. I never had a break because I had to balance their things,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't balancing my things. um and it got to the point where I ended up working at two clinics, and I snapped. At one of the clinics, I snapped. I was this one clinic, I was on the 7th floor. My office was on the 7th floor, and um every day I would stare out the window, and I just wanted to jump, you know? And I was just like, I cannot be here. I can't be in this building. I can't be in this building. I can't stay here. Um, I didn't have a break. And a lot of repressed memories were coming up. And I had a lot of anger, a lot of anger. Specifically one day when I was at the clinic, the second clinic, um, I I text my mom, and I was like, I'm really I was telling my mom, I was like, I'm a mess and I'm very unhappy and I don't want to be here anymore. And and I was saying, like, I'm sorry. It's not like I want to be like this. It's not that
Mm-hmm.
and I was just very angry. And my mother, she wasn't very responsive. And I I had experienced a lot of sexual abuse when I was a child. Um, Very, very early on, till I was maybe about 12, 13, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just very angry because I tried to when I was younger, I tried to talk to my mom. I was trying to tell her what had happened to me. In one instance of many, and she just asked me, she said, "Have you told anybody else in the family?" And I said, "No." And then that was the end of it, because for her it was like the way I saw it, it was like a shame type of thing, like, we don't talk, like, okay, it happened, it's done, we don't talk about it. So that was my first experience of this terrible thing happened to me and nobody cares. And I was pretty much just shut down. We never talked about it, but it was still impacting me. And I always say, I say that the I say that my mother's response to what happened to me was worse than the actual act of being abused and raped. I say that and I believe it, because when your own mother doesn't respond in a caring way, it strips away so much from you as far as how you see yourself as a person. Or do you even see yourself as a person? Do you even matter at this point? And so I feel like at that point, that's really when things started to deteriorate for me, because I just, I felt like I was nothing at that point. And I spent most of my teen years, my young adult life, trying to do things that I felt would make my mother love me or make my family love me and see me as a person. And that included going to school. Because everyone in my family is in the medical field, with the exception of, I have one uncle who's an engineer and another uncle who's a lawyer, but everyone is either a physician or a nurse practitioner or whatever. And I just thought, maybe if I had my degree, I could be enough for my family, or that maybe that they would love me. And so, so then I went to school, and, I worked hard, and I got grants and I got scholarships, and I did what I had to do. And then even when I got my master's, I didn't even go to my graduation, because in my head, it wasn't enough. And my brain was like so warped by like the trauma and by the neglect of just like, wow, like I'm never going to be enough. So in my head, it was just like, okay, I'm going to get this degree, and then that's just going to be the end of my life, and that's it. And then I was just like, okay, well, maybe they'll love me when I get my doctorate, or maybe they'll, so my thinking was just very irrational. But back to the conversation I was having with my mom, I was texting her and I was telling her how angry I was because of her neglect and because of what happened to me and because of how she'd responded to it. And, and I told her, I was like, your family did this to me. And then I told her, and then she's like, who family? What family? And I told her, I was like, I will never tell you. I was like, I will never tell you, because you didn't care when I tried to reach out to you, when I tried to get help from you. So now you can go on engaging and interacting with these people and not know, who did that. And I was just like, I'm just not. And I don't have contact with these people. Like I feel like we're already in like this trigger warning type of, like, for me, it's like, okay, this happened to me, and, it hurts. But I don't have to, I'm not going to get into like certain specifics, because I feel like it'd probably be a little too much, even with the trigger warnings. So,
you share whatever you're comfortable with, and if you're not comfortable with it, it's okay.
Yeah.
You take your time.
Yeah. So, I told her a lot of things, and I told her, I was really angry, and I told her I just want to be happy, and I told her, I'm not asking you for answers, I'm just asking you to see me and to just to love me, to support me. And that afternoon, I had just finished seeing my last client. And so this is all while I'm working. This is all while I'm working, and I, and I, I told her I didn't want to be alive, and she didn't respond to me. So like she left me on read.
Wow.
She left me on read, and like I feel like that was like the last straw for me. And that same weekend I ended up in a psychiatric hospital because I wasn't safe. I knew I wasn't safe. You know, I didn't want to hurt, I didn't want to hurt myself, but I felt like, what are my options? What is wrong with me? Like you just start to ask her, like, what is wrong with me? That she doesn't see, my worth. And it's like, maybe I don't have any worth. Maybe I'm, so all these things start going through my mind. And I was like, if I don't check myself in, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to make it. So I ended up going to the psychiatric hospital and being in the field, sitting in that lobby with a bunch of other people, talking to so many different people, because they want to know your background. They want to know, like, so you're going through the ringer, essentially, of like giving all this information about yourself before they check you in.
Mm-hmm.
And then, they're asking about occupation, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, I'm a therapist. And then like the person who's like getting on my nerves, like, oh, so you know more than me about, and I'm just like, I'm not here for you to tell me I know more than you. I'm here because I need help.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's also a really big thing in being in the mental health field and having your career impact your mental health, in the sense that people think because you're a therapist, oh, you automatically know everything. And and that you can't feel pain and you can't have trauma and you can't, it's like, oh, you have all the answers, and that is not the case.
Mm-hmm.
So like after that experience, I ended up, I talked my way out of it, of course, because I was just like, I can't do this. I was like, I can't stay at this psychiatric hospital. I got to find a way to get out of here. So I got out of there, and I got like an outpatient referral, and I followed up with an outpatient referral, and they weren't taking people. And that's the really difficult thing with getting help, is you might go and look for help, but sometimes it takes forever to get your foot in the door. Whether it's like they have a waiting list, or maybe they don't take your insurance, and so even after I took the initiative to contact outpatient, they didn't have room to take me. So that was around July. I didn't finally get a therapist till December.
That's a long
So
time.
it is a very long time. So I didn't have a therapist. I didn't have medication. But after I left that psychiatric hospital, I quit. I resigned. So that's how it's impacted me, is that I resigned from both clinics. It was very painful for me. And I would say, being the type of person that I am and experiencing the type of trauma, the type of neglect I experienced, it was very difficult for me to leave my clients. That was the biggest thing, because I knew the level of vulnerability that a person experiences finding a therapist and opening up to them, and then having that therapist be like, "Hey, we got to transition you to somebody else." And I didn't want my clients to feel that pain. And so I knew I was spiraling, but because I just didn't want to leave my clients, I just kept going. And I did more harm than good for myself, and probably for my clients, because of that potential transference and counter transference of, I don't want to use my clients because now I have these issues, and they have their things, and then it's like, where's the boundary, or like where's the line? And so, you know, I got to the point, so after the psychiatric hospital, I was like, I need to do this for myself, and I need to do this for my client, because I'm clearly not in the frame of mind to give them the type of um the type of um service that they deserve, you know. So I resigned from both clinics, and then I finally, you know, like I said, months later, I ended up getting a therapist. I ended up um getting on medication. I was diagnosed with major depression, PTSD, severe severe trauma, and uh, generalized anxiety disorder. So I'm on medication that I had to take every day. And I processed some things with my therapist. And I'll say that Corona has really screwed things up as far as gaining access to services. But that's a whole other thing. I feel like I kind of covered the how my mental health has impacted me in terms of my career.
Yeah. That was a lot.
I know.
And I can't believe that you went that long. Like, I don't even know how you even survived, to be honest, because I can't even wrap my head around that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you did, and you got the help that you needed.
Right.
Yeah.
And you do have a lot of insight on yourself also, which is really, really great. Our next question. Do you consider yourself spiritual or religious? Is the first question. And we have another one in there. Is does that have any effect on your mental health?
I would say I used to be very religious. I came from a very religious background in the sense of my grandmother. She's very religious, and my grandmother is the apple of my eye, if I can use that phrase. Like I I love my grandmother to death, and you know, I've always wanted to be like her. And um so for a really long time I was like super religious, and I'm talking like I would go to church like 7 days a week. Like I'm Monday through Sunday I was at church, either like Bible study, um choir practice, youth service, you know, children church. Like I was just part of everything. And I feel like I needed something, you know? Like I needed something, and I felt like in a lot of instances I found a lot of great things in terms of religion. Because with my background and, you know, my upbringing, or the lack thereof, I didn't really have any idea of love. And to be completely honest, like I still struggle with the concept of love. But I would say like my first experience, aside from my grandmother, outside of my grandmother, I would say my main experience of love was through a church. Um, you know, they'd come up to me and they'd be like, you know, we love you. And, you know, and I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, you don't even know me, you know? And then, and also in my head, I was like, yo, like my mom doesn't even like love me or what, like, you want me to believe that you love me? So it was just like a really weird and like foreign concept to me. But they were showing me things that I just never experienced before. Like another thing I'll share is I spent a short time homeless, um, in the sense that I have like this weird my mother, like, we had another falling out where she decided to like move to Florida, and then I ended up staying in this abandoned house for like several months with like no lights, no bathroom. Like, it was a mess. Like, as a young woman, it was a mess. And I remember just being there was like a mat so I was like sleeping in the basement. There was like a mattress in the basement. And I just remember laying there in the dark, just crying and just like, God, just be done with me. And then there was this woman, she knocked on the she knocked on the basement door, um, and was like, and I opened the door and she's like, "Do you want to go to church with me?" It was so weird and random. And I was just like, and tears were coming down my eyes, and I'm just like, but I don't have anything to wear. Like, I just was thinking, like, I don't have any church clothes to wear. She's like, that's fine. And, so I ended up going to church with her, and I was, I went to Sunday school, and the Sunday school teacher, like, he saw where I was. I was in this abandoned house with no light, no bathroom, nothing. And, he's like, you're not going to stay here. He's like, you're going to come stay with me and my daughters and my wife.
Oh,
And it was.
that's amazing. It's a blessing.
I didn't know that kindness like that existed before them. And I will always be grateful,
Mm-hmm.
So I left the basement. I'm sorry.
Take your time. Take your time, Bon.
Like, sometimes I sit and I'm just like, how has my life been like this? It's like, how has my life been like this? And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I ended up in that basement like that. So I'm sorry. So then
Okay.
So then I went.
We could take a break if you want to.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
So then I went to his home with he had 3 girls and a boy. And then he's like, oh, you're gonna share a room with my daughter, my oldest daughter. And I was just like, this man doesn't know me. And he brought me into his home with his family. He didn't ask me for anything at all, ever. He was very strict, but I was also very respectful. Like, for me, like, I didn't care, like, if he's like, I don't want you to go to the movies at such and such time. I was like, that's fine, like,
Mm-hmm.
So his whole thing was like, just, be here, go to church, go to school. So he actually helped me to go back to school to do everything I needed to do. And like, I experienced love and I experienced kindness through them, through that religion, through their spirituality, through, the type of Christian love that they believed that they needed to have for people. And so, for a really long time, I was very religious. I went to church every day. I was constantly praying, constantly fasting, like anything that was asked of me, like I did it pretty much. But then because I had a lot of other things going on, it made it difficult for me to stay. Like there's certain things I can't really talk about those things right now, but
It's okay.
it made it difficult for me to stay. And um certain things, in certain instances, it's great. The kindness is great. The love for your fellow man is great. But sometimes when people don't have a certain understanding of things as far as mental health goes, and
Mm-hmm.
also being, a Caribbean woman,
Mm-hmm.
and that frame of mind that says, oh, well, if you're experiencing this, if you're experiencing that, it's the devil.
Mm-hmm.
That we got to pray this away, or we got to do this, or we got to do that. Like
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time, like I had like a seizure. I used to have like constant seizures, and there was a time like I was having the seizure, but certain people like in the church, it was like, oh no, like it's something demonic. And so like
Mm.
it was that was a very tough time for me. Let's just say that was a very tough time for me, navigating that and navigating the religion that I was a part of. It was very difficult. Am I still religious now? I still feel like it still impacts me to
Mm-hmm.
some degree, in regards to certain things that I really can't discuss right now, but
Mm-hmm.
it definitely has a really significant impact on my mental health, and I can't say that it's in a good way. I will never forget the initial experiences that I've had and the love that I experienced, and that's something that I will hold on to forever. And I will say that it is a major part of why I even went into that field, because I received help from people that I saw as unofficial social workers and unofficial therapists. And I wanted to be that for someone else. And I always wanted to be in a position where I could open my home and my heart to people the way that, they did for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I feel like there's certain things that it makes it hard to hold on to and navigate other things, like the mental health aspect, when you
Mm-hmm.
have like certain stigmas surrounding that, or when you have things that need to be addressed, or you need medication, and it's like, well, we just got to pray this away, or it's the devil, or this wouldn't happen if you were in God, like certain things like that I'm just kind of like, I don't know. um but yeah, that one's very touching, very difficult for me. I really don't know where I stand right now as far
Mm-hmm.
as um either one of those. It's hard, but I'm working on it.
Yeah. Definitely take your time because it's more about your own journey than to be because you're already working through a lot right now anyway. So
Right.
Yeah.
um all right. Let's see. Our next question. What methods of self-care do you recommend and what is your favorite method currently?
Methods of self-care. This is as far as self-care, I always encourage people to do the things that they love.
Mm-hmm.
Don't force yourself to, and this is not me saying to not try things. Definitely try new things, but you know, self-care should make you feel good. It shouldn't be something that you're forcing yourself to get through.
Mm-hmm.
Um like for me, my self-care, and most people in my community knows this, I love the movie Chocolat with Johnny Depp. I don't remember the names of all the other people in there. All I know is Johnny Depp is in there. And that movie, and it's not even a genre that I'm into, but that movie is my self-care movie. When I'm having a really difficult time, I was like, well, Gotta schedule a date with myself to watch some chocolat.
Mm.
And then I also like watching YouTube videos of like miniature art, like, and it'll
Ooh.
be like silly things too, like somebody making like Wendy's French fries or like the McDonald's,
I've
like
seen some
super,
of those.
yeah. And it's so relaxing to me. That is my self care. Your self care
Mhm.
should be something that makes you smile, that makes you feel
Yes.
good, that you can
Mhm.
schedule for yourself and look forward to it, because self-care, like, it's so crazy like how difficult self-care is. It's like, man, like we literally had to fight ourselves to care for ourselves.
Facts.
So
That
it's
part.
like, it might not be, you might hate if you're like, oh man, I gotta go journal at like 2 p.m. It's like, you know
Yes.
what? Maybe I'm gonna go out and get a smoothie. Or,
Mhm.
maybe I'm gonna go to Sephora and get like a free makeover or something. Like, make it
Mhm.
something that you love, and I'm not
Mhm.
saying journaling is not good, because that's actually something I'm doing with my community now. Is like we're doing like a public journal, so we're journaling together. And
Oh, nice.
yeah, so that's something it's always been really difficult for me to it's always really been difficult for me to journal, because I'm
Mhm.
always afraid of what's gonna come out.
Mhm.
But I found in the last couple of weeks, I've made some ridiculous breakthroughs just from journaling, where I'm just like, oh my God, like, are you serious? Um,
Yes.
so like I feel like that's also a really good way to process if that's something you feel like you can do.
Mhm.
But I really don't feel like self-care should be forced. Not to say that it might not start off that way, especially if it's not something that, you've put into practice, but
Mhm.
start with things that you love to do. Everybody's self-care is going to look different. Your
Mhm.
self-care doesn't have to look like mine. you know Another thing I like to do is like movie marathons. I love movies, I love sci-fi, I love
Yes.
horror. And sometimes I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna like watch 2 or 3 sci-fi movies, and that makes me feel good to put
Mhm.
that time aside for myself to do that. So yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, and next question. Which methods of self-care have you found do not work for you personally?
Mm, let me see. I wouldn't necessarily say not work for me, but doesn't necessarily appeal to me. I would say breathing exercises,
Mm.
you know, and they work great, for some people. But for me, it's just my brain doesn't gravitate towards working on my breathing.
Mhm.
Um, so I would say breathing exercises, um,
Mhm.
visualization. Again, not that I don't think that it works. Like, I'm in some instances it has worked for me,
Mhm.
but um mm,
Could you explain what visualization is?
so for instance, you could do like you can narrate um like an outing. So it could be, visualizing yourself on a beach, and then you're going
Mm.
through, you're
Mhm.
going through everything that you would, see there, the waves, the color of the ocean. Maybe there's a drink, what does that look like? And, you know, the colors around you, the sand, feeling it between your toes, and
Oh,
the sun beaming down on your skin, and you know,
yeah.
uh, Idris Elba, Idris Elba coming down like glowing god. Like, okay, all right, you know what? Maybe that one would have worked a little bit. Maybe, but
I was
Yeah,
like,
so
oh, we getting spicy
visualization
in here.
actually visualizations, doing things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, visualizing your safe space, could be like a room. This one, like I used to do with clients, like creating your dream room or your room that's like your safe space. And you visualize how many windows does your room have, what color is your room, or do you have wide windows, do you have floor to ceiling windows, what is in this room, like an ultimate game setup, soft plushy rug, do you have pets in there? So yeah, like those things, like they work for some people. And if they're having like a panic attack or something along those lines, you could be like, hey, go into your safe space, go into your safe room. And sometimes that could work for somebody, but that's not really my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so in this portion, we're going to get into a few scenarios.
Okay.
And then we're going to, after we get into these scenarios, we'll have you all out in the audience. You can ask a few questions for Bond that you want to ask, or anything that you guys want to ask. Let's see. Let's go with the first one. You and your significant other just had a horrible argument, and you both said some pretty bad things to each other.
Yeah.
What would you do in this situation, and what are your steps to recover from that mentally?
Huh. In this situation, I'm walking away. And I mean, honestly, I should have walked away even before it got to that point. That would have been my therapeutic or my professional response. Before you say anything bad, getting to the point of saying, okay, let me walk away. Let me take a 2-minute break. Let me take a 5-minute break. But being that, we've already said some pretty bad things to each other, we're gonna take some time for ourselves. We're gonna make some space. So either, I'm gonna take a walk outside, or I'm gonna go into a different room. At which point I'm going to wait until, we've both calmed down to then revisit the situation, revisit the things that were said. And that approach, that can go several ways. Sometimes it's not necessarily about talking or, vocalizing things. It could be, what, maybe I'm going to write to you. So it could be like, I'm going to write how these things made me feel. And, I might ask you to do the same. Or, I might ask you, let's revisit, let's revisit what we were really trying to communicate, like tell me how you really feel, but after I've calmed down. One thing as a therapist I like using is nonviolent communication. And with nonviolent communication, you are seeking to not place blame, but finding a more effective way to communicate your needs. And because I feel like when you're expressing certain emotions, it's a need that needs to be, there's an unmet need that's being communicated there. So for instance, and I've used this example with my community. So for instance, if you and your significant other, you're fighting, and then you're like, you never take me out anywhere, like you never help around the house, like you're always going out with your friends, like we never do anything together, like you're a bum. like you're always going to be a bum, like you don't have any
Damn.
money to like spend on, like,
Mm-hmm.
this is obviously violent communication. Like you don't have to be physical for
Mm-hmm.
communication to be violent. Your
Mm-hmm.
words can be violent. When you're placing blame, that is a sort of violent way of communicating, your
Very
needs.
true. Mm-hmm.
Um, and so in a situation where you are going to utilize nonviolent communication, what is this person really trying to communicate? They're trying to communicate that they have a need for attention. They have a need for help around the house. They have a need to go out with you every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
They have a need for you to maybe buy them some flowers, here and, now and again.
Mm-hmm.
So then the way that we would shift that is, instead of saying, you never help around the house, you're a bum, you don't, wash the dishes, you always out with your friend, communicate the need. So instead of insulting and saying all these things, you can say, hey, you know, I miss when we used to go out. Can we set a date for us to maybe go out to the movies, maybe go out for drinks?
Mm-hmm.
Communicate the need. Hey, sometimes like I come home and I'm really tired. Do you think that you could do the dishes on this day and then I'll do them tomorrow? Come, so you are laying out what your need is. People can't
Yes.
fault you for laying out your needs, but I could fault you for calling me a bum, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Speak them facts, Bonnie.
yeah, so like little things like that where and then what I say is cuz some people are like, well, blah blah blah, like this, I'm always going to be the one doing this, et cetera, but somebody has to create the template. Somebody has to set the foundation,
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if it gets to the point where there can't be any type of compromise, it just wasn't meant to be, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so just because something doesn't work in a certain situation, it doesn't necessarily mean that that doesn't work. It just probably means that relationship isn't working. But yeah, so I would just say uh, make your needs known, be realistic with your needs,
Mm-hmm.
and not placing, trying to not place blame. And then I feel like when you take that route too, it just creates a space for more understanding because if we're both applying this, we're both going to constantly be thinking about each other's needs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you're thinking about my need, I'm thinking about your need. And then everybody's happy. Um so yeah, so it's like when you're angry, am I able to set myself, or am I able to set my standard response to you, instead of being so reactive? Am I able to like set that aside and be like, what is my significant other really trying to say to me?
Mm-hmm.
Why are they angry? Do they need attention? Do they need some space? So it's like trying to find what need that person is looking to have met. But yeah, I would say in that situation, I'll create space, walk away, revisit the situation, and try to figure out how we can meet each other's needs if possible.
Yes. That was great. Good advice, to be honest. Very much good advice.
Yes.
This is why we got Bonnie on here, y'all. Period. Pooh. Okay, let me stop. All right. Let's see. Our next one. Um, you've just been fired from a job that you have worked for several years. You were
Mhm.
almost about to get promoted, but the company had to downsize. What would you do in that situation? And what are your steps to recover from that mentally?
I'm so sorry. Can you give me a second, please?
Okay, take your time. No
All right.
problems. Hello everybody that just came in. Um, how are you all today? Thank you all for coming in. Everybody who support our channel, who supports Bond channel, please follow Bond. She does this over her channel, a lot of mental health things on a regular basis. And she's amazing. So please follow her.
Okay, I've returned. So,
Welcome
what
back.
would I do? Thank you.
What?
In the situation where I've been fired and I've been there several years, that hurts. Jeez.
Yes.
And I was almost about to get promoted. Damn,
Mhm.
what did I do to deserve that? Okay. And they had to downsize.
Mhm.
What would you do in this situation? What are your steps to recover from that mentally? Of course, that's gonna hurt.
Mhm.
Of course, that's gonna hurt. But then I guess I can also understand being that they're downsizing.
Mhm.
But several years? I mean, man,
Several
they have no
years.
other option.
No
It
other
was somebody else that
options.
they just hired.
They
Like,
said you had to go.
listen, I feel some type of way about this. I don't know about this question because
Okay, so the reason why we came up with this is because the coronavirus situation that's happening now.
yeah.
A lot of people are losing their jobs. People who've been at companies for a very long time, but they're trying to
Mhm.
save the upper top. People who want to have money in their pockets. So
Yeah.
you're kind of under there at the low end. So
Mhm.
they're feeling like, well, before we get our next cut, you're gonna have to get you. Well, I shouldn't have said that. But before we lose any money, you have to lose yours, so we don't have to lose anything. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That is a really difficult situation. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm going to need a really good support system for this to go
Mm-hmm.
through this.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, so in that situation, I'm definitely going to experience a lot of anger.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm going to communicate with the bosses and say, hey, listen, I've been here for a while. Um, in the instance that you guys create more positions, like the one that I was in before, keep me in mind because like I'm the type of person like I definitely try to build relationships with the people that I'm working with. So for me, I would definitely try to keep in contact with people that I've built relationships with to say, hey, listen, when things get back to some level of normalcy, can I come back? Can I come
Mm-hmm.
back? And then the other thing, of course, is looking for other resources. In the meantime, maybe, listen, it's gonna hurt. We're not denying that it's not gonna hurt, but we're gonna, keep in contact and
Mm-hmm.
find work. Like we just have to, apply for as many things as you can,
Mm-hmm.
all while having some type of support system. Because
Mm-hmm.
I definitely couldn't see myself going through something like that by myself.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, and I mean, I'm kind of in a similar situation, not the downsizing, but like I resigned because everything that was going on, and right before Corona, like I was trying to go back to my old clinic, one of my old clinics, and I was just applying to other places,
Yeah.
and but because of everything with Corona, it's like wow, now everything just got put on hold. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of in that position of damn, I need a job, and like it's difficult because of everything that's going on. So it's like I'm kind of in a limbo, so to speak. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like really grateful for my community, because they're my support system and helping me be
Mm-hmm.
like, to like apply for places, seeing, what could be like a good fit for me now that things are kind of opening up again, or
Mm-hmm.
people who are like willing to like help me, financially, in the sense that it's like, you're not asking, but like people who think about you enough that they like, yo, like I know you're not working right now. And then they think of you and they send you something. And it's like, wow, like that, that means a lot to me and
Mm-hmm.
having that type of support system. But yeah, lots of anger. keep applying, to different places, keep in contact with the relationships that you built at the company, and, having a really good support system or creating one.
Yes. Good advice. Definitely good advice.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to our next one. And hopefully, I hope none of you all are experiencing that either. Any of these situations. We hope
Yeah.
y'all are not. But we want to give examples of things that is very relatable because some people do go through these things. But just so y'all can get a perspective on a professional standpoint from Bond and her experience, how you all, especially if you can't afford therapy, which we'll talk about that later, but if you can't afford therapy, we try to, especially Bond, she definitely creates a space on her channel for people to come in and express how they feel and things of that nature. So please follow Bond, but also just so we can talk about it today, because it is Mental Health Awareness Month for y'all, for everybody to know. So our next question, you are caught in the middle of a friendship because two of your friends are having a huge falling out.
Yeah.
Friend A is using toxic behavior to sway you and others to their side. Friend B is not being as toxic as a friend A, but they are using manipulative behavior also. What would you do in the situation and how do you recover mentally?
I heard you. I'm just like looking at
Yeah, I know it's a lot. It's a lot.
Friend A is using toxic behavior to sway you and others to their side. Friend B is not being as toxic as friend A, but they're using manipulative behavior also. Well, if I'm being real, I'm not gonna have no parts of this. I mean, I'm going to tell both of these friends how it is. Like, listen, you guys, you're having your falling out. I'm not going to get dragged into this. Sits with I'm not gonna get dragged into this. I'm not about to like hold friend A's hand and hold friend. No, like this has everything to do with y'all and it has absolutely nothing to do with me. I try to not be like my friend's therapist. Like I really do, because
as you should not.
Yeah, because and especially it's like, okay, and you're going to use toxic behavior, manipulative behavior. I feel like if we're really friends, like we have to be able to tell each other how it is. It's like, you're not going to like try and manipulate me, or like our other friends because you want your own way. That's definitely not something I'm going to hold for you. So definitely being assertive is definitely how I would go about that. If you guys want a more professional response,
we will love any response you gonna give us.
If you want a more professional response of something that you can do with these types of friends or maybe people in the workspace, you could utilize something called talking papers. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but with talking papers, like it allows for everybody to be heard without anybody talking over each other. So with talking papers, you have a facilitator and then everybody writes, what they're feeling or what their concern is on a piece of paper. And the facilitator collects everything, collects all the papers after the allotted time. And then the facilitator will go through them and, say, hey, what do you think this person is trying to say? Or it could be, so yeah, you could do talking papers, or you could just have a facilitator, somebody who's like a neutral party, that pushes you to listen. I feel you. But yeah, like having them be in a situation where they have to listen to the other people and reiterate what the person is saying, because a lot of times when people listen to other people, they're not really listening. Like they're listening and they're formulating their response in their head.
Facts.
They're listening to respond, essentially, not listening to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So something like talking papers pushes a person to. So if I get a piece of paper as a facilitator and this person says, like I feel like this person never makes time for me and I'm the one that always has to reach out to them. Um, and instead of friend B or whoever saying, well, blah, 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 like, no, now the facilitator is going to be like, you tell me what this person is saying. So then it forces them to now think about a different perspective or a different emotion than their own, considering somebody else. So that can work in certain instances, talking papers. So then nobody gets to talk until the facilitator is like, okay, you could talk. But in the situation with friends, I don't want no part of it. I'm just gonna say how I feel. I'm gonna be assertive. You guys need to sort it out amongst yourselves and go from there.
Well, I like both of those answers. I'm gonna have to use that talking papers. Hopefully, I don't have to, but I'm definitely, if situation comes, I'm using
It's good for bigger groups. Like if you have like a really big group of friends,
Yeah.
that could be pretty. I mean, it could work with two people too if you have like a neutral party. But yeah, definitely, I've used it. I've used it and I found it helpful. And it also helps too, like if somebody's like scared, like maybe they don't want somebody to know that it's them, or maybe somebody doesn't want to put everybody on the spot, don't want to put a specific person on the spot. You can make it where it's like general stuff. I'm not saying in every instance, because in some instances, you just got to talk to people directly and tell them what it is. But
Facts.
in some instances where it's like, this could apply to everybody, but there may be one or two people that it's like, oh, this is for you. But we could present it in a way where everybody has to take it into consideration. So,
Yes.
so that could be helpful too. So it's not like, oh, you're attacking me or, they're attacking me. It's like, no, like these are ways of being for everybody that we would like to see.
Yeah.
It definitely seems effective, so I'm definitely gonna keep that in mind for the future.
Facts.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another friend question. Going to our next one.
Okay.
You and a close friend are currently experiencing a distancing in your relationship. You have received, oh no, not received. You have reached out and tried to amend the friendship to no avail. Do you continue the friendship or not? If you continue, how will you mend it? And how will you recover from it mentally?
I don't. If we're experiencing a distancing and I'm making an attempt to mend the friendship and and you're not reciprocating, what am I doing? Like you can only do so much, and I'm not trying to be my own friend, I'm trying to be friends with you. But if you're not putting in the same effort that I'm putting in, then we shouldn't be friends. And so for me, the friendship isn't going to continue. And I personally, because of the type of experiences I've had and because of the type of neglect that I've had, I will only put so much into a situation like that before I'm just like, all right, I'm good, because I've experienced enough of that already. But yeah, communication is like the biggest thing for me. Like if we're not communicating, if you're not reciprocating, that's my answer right there. That's my answer right there. And so I wouldn't be continuing the friendship. As far as how I would recover mentally, yes, like it's definitely going to hurt. But I think for me, it would then be revisiting my boundaries. Like I'll tell other people who experience similar things as this, give a lot, get a lot, give a lot, get a little, give a little. And so creating those boundaries for ourselves. Like we should never be in a relationship where we're the ones that's giving 100% all, like we're giving all the time, you know? If they're giving a little bit, okay, well, you're going to get a little bit from me. If you're giving a lot, I'm going to give a lot more as well. And so, you know, if you feel like that's not what's going on in the relationship, what are we doing? You know? So that's how I would recover mentally. You know, I feel like a lot of that is knowing your worth, which is something that I'm slowly learning, you know, for myself. And just revisiting my boundaries. Like, how did I get to this point? You know, I don't want to get to this point again. So what do I need to do as far as my boundaries go to make sure that this isn't happening to me over and over again?
Yeah. Okay. That is good advice, though. Very much good advice. Because you can't really do too much if nobody's giving, even a little.
Yeah.
All right. Our last scenario that we have. So everybody, if you have a question for Bond, get it ready. Let's see. You just got into a big argument with your parent about trauma you experienced from them in the past. They won't take any responsibility for any of it. How do you handle that situation and how you recover from it mentally? Now, before you answer, I know that you kind of talked about this.
Yeah.
Now that I hear your story, you did talk about it.
Yeah.
But if you left anything out, you can say what you want to add in there. If you don't want to touch it again, it's totally fine. Just let you know.
Yeah. I think I've touched on it. I think I'm gonna leave that one as is, if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's totally fine.
Like, I mean, if somebody else wants to revisit it, then that's fine.
Yeah. No, it's okay. It's okay. Now, I do have a question. It's pertaining when seeking out a therapist, which me and Twin talked about this last year, trying to find like resources and things of that nature, like in different states and stuff like that, for people who may have little to no money. Do you have any recommendations regarding that? And then I have one more other question is, do you think it's best to find a therapist that's kind of like an expertise in what you're going through, or is it okay to have like a general a person that kind of covers everything?
Do you mind to
you're
say
looking for one?
I do you mind saying the question prior to this one? You're
Oh
talking
yeah.
looking for the therapist.
If you have little to no funds for finding a therapist, and what would you recommend and how would they go about it to find one?
All right. I will say, first and foremost, I know the struggle of trying to find an affordable therapist because, you know, a lot of times therapists, they want you to pay out of pocket. I mean, there's some that, you know, like they'll take your insurance, but there are some that they would prefer out of pocket, or most will say, you know, they only take out of pocket because they don't want to have to deal with the insurances and making sure that they're able to, you know, get paid for services rendered, especially if the insurance company is trying to be like, you know, do they really want to count this? So I know like a lot of places they want you to do out of pocket, but there, you know, if you have little to no funds, there are some options as far as some clinics doing like a sliding scale. So based off of like your income, they might accommodate you and be like, okay, based off of your income, they'll maybe charge you this amount instead of, their standard price. So I would say, if you have little, if you don't have that much, but you do have a little bit, I would say ask them about that. Ask them, do you have a sliding scale, as far as what I'm able to afford.
Yes.
Another option I would say is look at your local universities, because a lot of times they have therapists in training. So they have like clinics on campus where
Mm-hmm.
if you don't mind seeing a student, or not even just not even just the universities, but sometimes certain clinics, like if they have student interns, maybe sometimes you're able to get free therapy because they're a student. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make them any less, like I don't think they're any less, of course, they don't have all that experience, but if you need that space,
Yeah.
it's a good place to start,
Yeah.
if you don't have the funds. So I would say look at local universities, look at other clinics who maybe have students, so that you could maybe get yourself some free therapy. When I
Yeah.
was in grad school, I did free therapy for people at Salvation Army and other people who had learning disabilities, and all of that was free.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so looking into that, um,
That's great. I
yeah,
didn't even think about that at
Same.
yeah.
all. I didn't even
So
think about that.
that's a good route. So asking for the sliding scale, asking about possible student interns for free therapy, and then also looking at local groups in your community, because sometimes you might not necessarily be able to afford like the one-on-one, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe there's a mental health group that you're able to join in your local community, because um sometimes it's about twinning, where it's like, okay, you are connecting with people that have similar experiences as you.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just need that space. So it doesn't have to be formal therapy, but it could be a support group. So,
Yeah.
look into support groups as well, in your town. I know not right now because of everything as far as like Corona goes, but it is an option.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I hope you all look into that, because I'm definitely will.
Same here.
Because I am currently looking for a therapist. Um, and then the second question is, do you think that if someone is looking for a therapist, should they try to look for one that is particularly uh specific into what they're looking for? So say if they're looking for therapy for a loss of a loved one, do
Mhm.
you think that they should have like a look for a therapist that does that, or would it be fine for them to go to like a general therapist that covers a lot of things?
I honestly think that you could go to a therapist that has like a generalized approach, because I
Mm-hmm.
just feel like as a therapist, you're going to be looking at several different theories,
Mm-hmm.
because you know that your clients, you're going to have a diverse, client population.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you're gonna want to have a little bit of everything. Like, even in my work, like I've never only done one thing, with a
Mm-hmm.
client, and a client could come to you and it's like, oh, well, they have depression, but it's like, but we're not only going to address depression. And so you're
Mm-hmm.
definitely going to want to have several different theories in your back pocket.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't necessarily say that you would have to go to somebody that has like a certain specialty. I mean, if like if you want to, like if you have a certain specialty in mind and okay, this is exactly what I need and it's available to you, sure, but you don't have to limit yourself if it's not available to you right off bat and
Yeah.
saying, well, they don't have a specialty. No, I would say go to the therapist that's available. You're able to discuss with your therapist what their approaches are,
Mm-hmm.
and then you explore together and see what approach works for you. Because I mean, you could go to like the person that specializes and it's like, well, I don't like this approach at all, but then go to somebody who isn't specialized but they have an approach that works for you. um so I really feel like it has more to do with building a rapport with your therapist
Yeah.
and exploring approaches together that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with them being specialized in it or not. Like I said, like you could come to me with like depression and we're going to discuss grief. We're going to discuss, maybe marital issues. Like we're going to
Mm-hmm.
these things are going to come up and my approach is going to have to change based off of what comes up. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Did anyone have any questions for Bon?
I have two questions that Kai submitted to our Ask form. And the first one is, how do you know when it's time to seek help from a professional?
Okay. What's my sign? Oh, I'm a Cancer. I was like, wait, hold on. I'm a Cancer. But yes, you know that it's time when you aren't functioning. Like
Mm-hmm.
when it's getting in the way of you functioning on a day-to-day basis, you should
Mm-hmm.
go to see a professional.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, your friends can only do so much. They're not going to
Mm-hmm.
be available to you 24/7. If you're having difficulty sleeping, if you're having difficulty managing your emotions, if you're having difficulty with suicidal ideations, if your eating habits have changed, losing weight, gaining weight, if you um so if you're sleeping, so I would say those are the main things. If you're having difficulty with sleep, if you're having difficulty as far as eating, if you're having difficulty with suicidal thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
you should go and see a professional.
Right. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're getting no pleasure in doing things on a day to day, you should probably see a professional as well.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. It definitely. I know for me, it's like looking back at stuff in the past, and it was like, oh, if I had known, back then. But at least
Mm-hmm.
we
Yeah.
know we know now, like how to deal with those things now.
Yeah.
And her second question was, how do you schedule self care when you're a busy adult that doesn't live alone?
How do you schedule self care when you're a busy adult that doesn't live alone? Um, that's I wouldn't say that's difficult as much as I would say you have to prioritize yourself.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very by any means necessary if you
Yes.
really want to engage in self care. And let's say you don't live, like you said, you don't live alone and you're trying to figure out, maybe you need the space, communicating it. Communicate that need of saying, hey, I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z. Like you don't have to use the word self care, but if it's a situation where that person or those people are going to um, impede on your ability to, um, you know, engage in your self care, you have to communicate that. You have to communicate that because you're worth it.
Exactly.
And as
Facts.
far as like scheduling it, you like I tell people, you have to schedule it as though it's a doctor's appointment. or those
Yes.
like a work, like your shift at work, like we have to take it that seriously,
Yes.
because when we do, nothing else matters. Like, it doesn't matter if there's other people in the house, it doesn't matter if you had like an early shift. If it's important enough, we're going to make the time for it.
Very true.
Facts.
um and we're going to make sure that the people around us understand that. Not necessarily understand, whether they understand or not, knowing that it needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I like that you compared it to, as if like, clocking in for work or whatever, because I feel like a lot of us, when we think about, a job, usually that's a part of our life that, kind of determines if we're going to have a home or if we're going to have food. So it's like a necessity. So I think you
Mm-hmm.
comparing self care to it, because self care is also a necessity, because even as you
Facts.
mentioned several times earlier, you have to take care of you before you can take care of anyone else and your
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
well-being. So I definitely, I think that thinking of self-care in that way, I think that approach will help a lot of people who, may think, oh, I can put it off, or oh, it's not that important, but when it
Yeah.
actually is. So I thank you for, for explaining it that way, because I think that definitely helps.
Yes.
Yeah, no problem. Like, for sure. Like, you definitely don't want to be we want to try to be as proactive with self-care
Yeah.
and less reactive, because you don't want to wait until like you're going through something really detrimental to be like, okay, I got to take care
Yes.
of myself. You got to start
Mm-hmm.
taking care of yourself right now, before it gets to that point, because
Mm-hmm.
you are creating, like I tell people, like you are creating this, you're contributing to your mental map,
Mm-hmm.
and um, we like something we talk about on my channel about like neuroplasticity and our brain's ability to change based off of like the different experiences that we have, and we're reconditioning our brains. And it's the same thing with self-care. It's the same thing with anything that you learn. You're conditioning yourself. You're not going to wait until the wheels fall off to try and like get new tires, or like you're going to have tires in the trunk, or whatever the,
Mm-hmm.
the situation might be. You want to make sure that your brain already knows to kick into gear,
Yeah.
to step in with the self-care, and not like, okay, now everything is going into shambles, let me try and figure out what I'm going to do, because that's when you're going to turn to the things that are easily accessible, and those things might not be the best ways to deal with the things that you're going through.
Yeah.
That's true.
Come on, Bonnie. Speaking these
Exactly.
facts. I can't.
Exactly.
You don't see how hard I was wagging my head over here, girl.
Me the whole time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love it so much. But that is great advice. Once again. Did you all have any other questions for Bon upon today? You can always go follow Bon, and she does have mental health days. I believe mind. I can't. I don't want to mess up the
Mindful.
name, but it's something with mind and Mondays.
Mindful Mondays.
Mindful. There we go.
Oh,
Mindful
mindfulness
Mondays.
Mondays.
Yes.
Mindfulness.
Yeah.
Yes.
She does a lot of good stuff over there, so
Oh,
don't
I don't
forget.
know anything about my rising, and I have no background on these things. I wish I knew, but I don't.
Well, hopefully one day we can read your chart bond when you get a chance.
Okay.
Um, yes, mindfulness Mondays. Yeah, so awesome. I'm weak, Christy.
Crazy.
um, but yeah, if you all um don't have any questions, just make sure you all follow her, and you can always watch her streams and learn more over there and hear more experiences and testimonies. So,
I appreciate that.
We have a question from Humble. And Humble asks, do you believe that going to therapists that are part of the same culture is the best for someone?
Mm, Not necessarily. Like for me, I actually was relieved because the place I ended up going, I know that there was someone who's actually the same background as me, and
Mm-hmm.
I was actually very grateful that I didn't get them, mainly because um mainly because with therapy, there's a very thin line in terms of professional boundaries. And
Mm.
while having the same culture would be great in terms of, oh, I can have like that somebody who is a little bit more in tune and understanding, but someone can be outside of your culture and, have respect for that culture, um, and is better able to help you versus somebody who's within the same culture who might maybe have some stigmas or some other things that they haven't fully dealt with themselves that could then trickle into their therapeutic approach with you. So I don't necessarily believe that it's best to do that. If anything, I feel like but then again, there's really no way of knowing, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel like because of that, I personally I just go with somebody who isn't necessarily part of the same culture. But yeah, I feel like there's just that chance of, yeah, like you'll have a little bit more understanding, but at the same time, will that get in the way of the approach? Um, will we become more friends versus, you're my therapist and I'm your client? Or
Mm-hmm.
will there then be more transference because now this therapist, if they're newer, then maybe they don't know how to set that boundary, and then now maybe they're taking more than they're giving, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just more to consider when you're coming from the same cultural background.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a good question too,
Yeah, that's a really good question.
because that was one of the concerns I had also. Um, but I'm I'm still looking anyway. Uh, Apple. Did anybody else have any question for a bonbon?
My therapist is what? I was taking no chances. Yeah.
And a
And I,
whoa.
yeah, and I think that's perfectly fine too. Like for me, it's more of like religious background or things along those lines. Like I said, specifically for me being Caribbean, it's like I don't care how much a therapist is like, oh, I'm able to separate my, beliefs from like my practice and things like that. It's going to trickle in there one way or another, even if
Yeah.
it's a little bit, even if you don't fully see it at first, because our experiences, our culture, like it's who we are,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it blends into your approach. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you feel like having somebody with the same culture, is going to be the best approach for you, then great, But in some instances, it might do more harm than good if there isn't a personal and professional balance going
Yeah.
on in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, because that's something I struggle with. Like, for instance, because of my relationship with my grandmother and being super close to her, it's difficult for me to work with older clients because then I start kind of seeing them as like a grandma figure. And that's not good because now it's going to be easy for me to maybe break certain boundaries because of how I view them. And it's the same thing with the cultural thing or the religious thing. So, like, somebody maybe I start talking about my depression, how I'm feeling, and then in the therapist's mind, maybe being West Indian, they'll be like, "Girl, that is the devil." They can't say it,
Mm-hmm.
but like it might impact how they listen to you,
Right.
how they
Yeah.
understand you, because in their mind they kind of still have that, that understanding, because it's not their fault, like it's that cultural thing. So all of those are a factor.
That's
I
definitely
thought
true.
that relating to all could be a negative and a thing. Yeah, it's
I
tricky.
never thought about that till now. I'm
Yeah,
Same.
shook. I'm
finding the
shook.
right therapist is tricky because it's like, it's so weird because it's like, it almost seems like a friendship, but it's not a friendship. Your therapist isn't your
Mm-hmm.
friend, and your
Facts.
therapist has that difficult job of being a friend without
Mm-hmm.
actually being a friend. Like, it's a like, I don't think people know like how difficult it is to balance that, because I feel like if you're doing a really good job, it's almost like your client might be like, yo, this is my friend,
That
but
is true.
you're not like, we're not friends, but as a therapist, you want the client to tell you things that they would tell
That they would tell their friends
you
probably.
know
Right.
yeah, so like, it's a difficult relationship to manage, and I'd be
Yeah.
lying to you guys if I told you that I balance it very well. I still struggle with trying to find that balance where I'm like, yo, like, we're not friends, we're not family, like,
Yeah.
especially when you relate a lot, and I mean, we're
Mm-hmm.
human, it's gonna slip. The line is just so thin, like, you might slip. So
Yeah.
yeah.
This kind of random, but I've been watching The Sopranos,
Mhm.
and he goes to therapy in there, and he crossed the boundary. He was relating. They relate because they have the same background.
Yeah.
Because they're both Italian, and they have like a connection with something with his job, him being a mob person or whatever,
Mhm.
and he pushed the boundaries, and she also pushed the boundaries from what I see, but he pushed the boundaries by like falling in love with her,
Yeah.
and she kind of allowed it because it she made him feel a little bit too comfortable, like he can just say things and do things
Yeah.
whatever he want. So
Then
that's
set those
I'm
boundaries
shook.
early. Yeah, then set those boundaries early. And I have, like, I'll use my one of my friends' situations with, they related a little too much with a therapist, and then the therapist started pushing the boundary a little too much, and that completely turned them off to therapy. And you think like, well, you guys like related so much, but it's like, but how much is a little too much, and
Yes.
at what point, does it become a little too risky, and then now you are sacrificing your mental health, and the professionals also putting, there's an ethical thing going on there as well.
Hmm. My mind has been blown, just know that.
Right. I never even thought about how it affects, like, the balancing between professionalism, but then also wanting to, be relatable to your client. So they, like you said, so they feel, comfortable to open up to you. I never
Hmm.
knew that the balance was like that. I never knew that.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's rough.
I feel
This
for
is
you.
exactly why me and Twin wanted Nam and Bond to be on, because they gave us different perspectives
Exactly.
on the same, literally the same stuff. Well, not we didn't do too much therapy things with um, 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 um,
Nami.
Nami, but sorry, my brain just went crazy.
I feel you.
But the responses are just so different, but also very just awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm sorry, I'm over here fangirling.
We see.
Oh, Cam said something, I don't know.
Oh,
Further.
um, Cam said that's exactly like healthcare and nurses and doctors. Me and my friends have the same problem with recent nurses we had. Them being Caribbean too, it's like their personal views clashes with professionalism, and it makes it uncomfortable.
Yes, that's exactly it. If they can create the boundaries, then it's great, but it's difficult.
Okay, okay. I can see that though. I can see that though. That it's like Um, and some people don't. Sometimes when it comes to certain things, I feel like sometimes people are too comfortable when it comes to like just to say like we're at a store or something like that, and the service that you give maybe somebody that's not of your culture may be different from the service that you give someone of your culture. You
Yeah,
might be a little bit more like, "Hey, girl," and then the other one is like, "Hello, how are you?" And it's
yeah,
like you can't really do that. You have to give the same service.
yeah.
Um, did anybody else have any more questions before we close out upon today? Oh
Questions,
no,
comments, and concerns.
yeah,
I had a
anything.
professor that always used to to end class with that. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns? I forget what else.
That's a good one though. They covered all the bases.
All of them.
Hello, chaotic.
Hi,
Welcome.
chaotic. Hi, smile. Oh, hi, smiles.
Thanks for coming to support Bon Bon today. We appreciate it. But if you all don't forget to follow Bon on her channel if you don't already. Um because you're missing out if you don't. I'm just telling you now.
Mental health, and I shoot things.
Yes. She be shooting. I've seen it. I stay away from Bonnie.
Mhm.
Oh no.
Stay. Oh my Trini. I'm done.
But Bon, we want to thank you again for coming.
Thank
We
you. Thanks for having
um
me.
did you have any questions, comments, or concerns? I was like, but did you have anything that you would like to say before we head on out of here?
I would like to say thank you for having me. I was really
Yeah.
anxious. Um, I don't know. These types of things, just talking to people always, makes me anxious.
Yeah.
But I felt very welcomed.
Yay.
Um, so that was really nice and a relief. What else? I want to say that thank you guys, for being here and listening to me and, being accepting of the things that I was saying. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for supporting Twin Tarot. It seems like you guys have like a really awesome community. And I want to also say that you guys are important and, to see your worth and don't wait for people to assign value to you. Know that you already have it. Remind yourself of that daily. Don't put your self-care on the back burner, and
Mhm.
you owe it to yourself to be better, for yourself and to heal. You guys are all deserving of healing. I don't know the things that you guys are going through. I don't know who made you feel maybe insignificant, but know that you have worth and
Mhm.
you have the ability to heal. And I just wish healing for all of you guys. And yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
You trying to
being,
have me crying over here?
right.
No problem.
Thank you
Go
for
ahead, Twin.
feeling
I'm sorry.
comfortable enough to, share with us and everyone here. And thank you again for, joining us. You definitely opened up our eyes about a lot of things and you put a lot of things into a perspective that we may not have thought of before, definitely coming from the therapy aspect. So we really do appreciate you for joining us today, Bonnie. Thank you.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank
We
you
love it.
guys.
Make sure y'all go follow Bonnie or else.
Yes. Please, please,
Oh,
please.
I do also want to add, and I don't want anybody in my community to beat me up, but
Uh-oh.
you you're definitely free to slide in my DMs if you maybe like I've offered this before, but it's been a while since I have. But while I'm currently not working, I'm definitely open if you maybe need help looking for resources. I'm definitely open to doing that. So definitely don't hesitate to message me if you need maybe help on where to start as far as looking for resources. And yeah.
Oh, that's
That's
nice
awesome.
of you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Yeah.
Don't abuse it, y'all.
Exactly.
You do. Don't abuse it. And
So
if you do abuse it, you better slide some coins to her way.
have you looked into working for one of the mental health apps? I actually haven't, Apple. And it's so funny that you say that because one of the other things we do on Mindfulness Mondays is sometimes we review mental health apps, which is
Mm-hmm.
usually pretty fun. So we've reviewed a couple. I don't know if I could suggest some to you guys that I really liked, but
Mm-hmm.
um,
Definitely.
Yeah.
there's one app that's literally called hashtag self care. And that one is great. Like it's actually like you get like your own room and you could have like a cat in there.
Oh
And
yeah, I played that one.
yeah,
Oh,
Thanks
and
to you, I played that. I
yeah,
did
and
it.
you can journal in there and you could do like little affirmations. There's a bunch of little activities that you could do in there. There's like breathing exercises. Like there's a bunch of things that you could do in the room. Um Another app that I use is for mood. It's like mood notes, and it allows you to it allows for you to journal and then kind of break down, if you guys are familiar with like CBT or like irrational thinking, things
Mm-hmm.
along those lines. It helps you to identify negative thoughts, um, and it also tracks your mood, so you can see like
Oh, that's
different
awesome.
patterns, and it
Mm-hmm.
helps you to challenge irrational thoughts and behaviors and things like that. It's really cool. um there's another one where if you just need to, it's escaping me right now. I have it saved somewhere. I'll pass it on to Adriana, and if anybody's interested in it, where you can
Alrighty.
go on there and you can go on video, but it'll like scramble, like you could have it where it scrambles your face. So if you just kind of want to go on in a space and vent, and then nobody has to see who you are and people will just respond to you.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
yeah, so there's like a bunch of different apps that I really like. Talkspace, I don't think I've ever used Talkspace. I don't think I've ever used Talkspace.
Okay, okay.
I definitely just downloaded the first two, so definitely gonna be trying those out later.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, all right. Well, thanks again, Bon. And thank you for dropping all that knowledge that you have and your experiences. We truly, honestly appreciate
We
No
are.
problem.
it. Hey. All right, y'all. We're gonna head up on out of here. Don't forget to follow Bon, and uh, we'll see you all next week for our final stream for Mental Health Month. It'll be just Twin and I, and we're gonna answer the questions that we gave the interviewers. The interviewers, the interviewees, what they call interviewees. The questions we gave Vaughn and Nami, me and Twin are gonna be asked answering those on the last day. Um, and it's gonna get a pretty cryy. I'm gonna let y'all know now because
Yes.
I'm gonna be crying.
Same.
Um, um, it's just been rough out here in these streets, but we're gonna head out of here. Thank y'all again for coming.
We
We
love
love
you
you guys. We
guys.
always appreciate y'all, and thanks for everybody, Bond's community for coming and supporting Bond. Um, and thanks for everybody in our community for coming and supporting us and Bond. We appreciate it so much. And we'll see y'all next time.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.